white-tailed deer is America's favorite big game animal, and white-tailed deer farming is the fastest growing segment in the American agriculture industry. Our program's mission is to dive into the world of deer farming and discover why tens of thousands of Americans compete to create the biggest bucks in the world. And by the biggest bucks, we don't just mean the size of the antlers. The financial investment opportunities produced even on small parcels of rural land will blow you away. Join me as we discover how whitetail genetics, deer auctions, animal husbandry, and so much more drive the deer farming industry. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories. Well, howdy everybody. This week's Deer and Wildlife Stories episode, we start off with a little detour, if you will. Right now we're at High Roller Whitetails, and the show didn't start out to be here. I'm telling you that right now. We're actually heading down to prime Acres Whitetails, owned by my buddy Brad Hassig. But what happened, we heard that at High Roller they're fixing to knock down a big buck by the name of Firepower. Firepower is a 3-year-old, and he is a giant, as you can see. And the significance behind Firepower is that on our television show we're always talking about partnerships in the deer industry. Well, Brad Hassig at Prime Acres is partners with James Butler and the folks over at High Roller on Firepower. You take a look at him, and I mean, the biggest thing that strikes me about Firepower as we look at him in the pen is his body size. Yeah, his antlers are huge, but his body is incredible. When you take a look at his body, he's a 3-year-old now. You compare him to all the other deer in the pen. I've never seen a deer with as big a body as this. So the antlers, I think the antlers are going to surprise you. When you take a look at the antlers on his head, yeah, they're huge. But once we get this buck on the ground, that's when you're going to really tell how big Firepower is. Now we're going to start out by putting a dart in him, and once that dart is called a remote delivery device. Once it gets in him, it's going to take about 6 to 8 minutes for him to go down and the anesthesia to work. Once the buck is down, what they're going to do is they're going to put a mask on him. The reason why is just to kind of calm him down, keep his eyes protected, and then they're going to go to work on him. They're going to put some fluids in him and give him a bunch of different medicines, and then once the mask is put on, the medicines are administered, they want to go ahead and measure the antlers, and so lots of different measurements are going to be taken, and the reason why is for data purposes, period. In deer farming, we want lots and lots of data so we can compare from one year to the next how the deer is progressing or regressing in some cases. So that is important. But once the measurements are all documented and taken, the next thing is you wind up cutting the antlers off. They're going to start on the antlers, and the antlers, what they wind up doing is they put tourniquets on, basically. There's different ways to do it, but in this case they're actually using some surgical wrap. And so they wind up making a tourniquet on each antler, tie it really, really tight. And the purpose is to stop the blood flow from going up in the antlers. Once they do that, they give it a few minutes to stop that blood flow, and then they take a saw and they saw each antler off. After an antler is removed, they'll take toothpicks, and in this case, they'll wind up use those toothpicks to plug the veins where the excess blood is coming out. And once the blood is stopped, they'll wind up going ahead and spraying each one of those cut off antlers with basically an aerosol Band-Aid.
Just a quick summary of what we did. We actually cut Firepower right before he rubbed out to keep him from going through the stresses of the rub out period. So what happens is, you can see when that velvet starts to break down, his circulatory system is still all connected to it, and you get so much bad blood, and the circulatory system can't clean it up. They get a little bit sick, and then when you try to collect semen early in the year, you're not very successful getting semen early when a buck this big goes through the stresses of rubbing out.
Once that's taken care of, everybody backs off, he gets a reversal shot, and he's on his feet in no time. After the break, we'll be down at Prime Acres Whitetails, and we'll show you a buck by the name of Money Talks. And folks, money talks, because this buck could be the best yearling that's ever been born. Now it's time for one of our frequently asked questions. All right, so we got our eyes on every buck in the pen, and we really came out to take a look at one great big non-typical deer. I mean, this deer is huge. I don't know how big he is, but he's still got a lot of pushing left to go because you can actually see he's bulbed up. It's middle of summer. The deer are really pushing antler growth, and the purpose of coming out here and doing this is to make sure that we don't have any broken tines. If we have any broken tines, we want to take care of them, and the reason why is because they get antler infection and it will kill them, so we don't want that to happen. So spending time with your deer is important in the pens, but not just to gentle them down, but to be able to observe them. So if you've got a question about deer farming, odds are we've got the answer. Head on over to deerandwildlifestories.com and hit the frequently asked question tab. We've got tons of great information there. And if you're not subscribed to the Deer Farming channel on YouTube, make sure and do so. The Deer Farming channel is brought to you in part by New Dart, leading the industry in accuracy. So this is my first time to ever come here to Prime Acres, and I want to describe the place to you. First off, it's the pens are beautiful. It's in East Texas, so you've got a lot of tall trees. There's grass in the pens, which you may think grass. There's a lot of pens in Texas that don't have grass. So, but Brad's pens have got grass, and the pens are big enough for the deer to really feel, they've got plenty of room. They're comfortable, and you can tell by looking at the deer, they're real gentle.
My name's Brad Hassig, and we're here at my ranch, Prime Acres. Right now we have around 150 adult deer, and this year we had 112 fawns. We're excited to have Keith out this year to film and show what we've produced here on our farm. Me and Keith have been friends for a number of years, and we feel fortunate enough to be able to have him out to show him what we have.
All right, so we're down at Prime Acres right outside of Woodville, Texas, and these right here are some of your one-year-olds.
Yes.
All right, so okay, right now, folks, it is September the 1st, okay, and these deer, as you can tell, they are drying up. That buck right there, his velvet is just tattered, hanging off. So tell me about him.
He's just starting to clean up just in the last day or so. He's actually a full brother to Tappet, and as you see, there's a few in here that we've already cut off, just
right.
Safety measures. When they start to clean up like that and get hard horned, we'll go ahead and knock them down and get their antlers off of them, and just safer for the other deer and safer for them, and a little less stress for them to rub on these trees for 2 weeks and trying to clean themselves up. So,
speaking of Tappet,
he's back there. We cut him off this summer, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. He damaged early, and he's proven himself. He was consistently in the upper 30-inch spreads, last 2 or 3 years, and we just felt like it was best for him, to go ahead and cut him off early and get him ready to see some does this fall.
all right, what about this guy right here? I love the looks of that guy right there, 908.
Yes, he's a Sudden Express son. We're really real impressed with him. He's definitely the biggest yearling in this pen, and pretty much has been all summer.
These are some really pretty yearling bucks, and Tappet right there. And Tappet was, we already filmed him inside the deer facility. I mean, at 3 years old, he was a giant.
Yeah.
And so let's go take a look at some other yearlings.
Sounds good.
Look at these yearlings. This is unbelievable. I'm just I'm looking at them going, okay, I got to tell y'all something. Every single deer farm I go to, every single one, people are saying, how do my yearlings look like compared to everybody else's? And you do it. Everybody wants to know. Well, I get to go, fortunately, to deer farms all over the country, and I see lots of yearlings. But these yearlings right here, across the board, are about as good as you can get. I mean, I like a lot of them in here. I see another deer in there that is just breathtaking. 926. Who's that?
That's brother to Money Talks.
And he's a 1-year-old?
Yes, he is.
All these are 1-year-olds?
Yeah.
So 926 is a womb brother, gotta be.
Yes, it is.
Okay, womb brother to Money Talks. And all these are 1-year-olds. Let me take a look at them. Okay. Now he says he doesn't sell 1-year-olds. maybe, but you can see that. I mean, because at 1, imagine what these guys are going to look like at 2. I mean, these are unbelievable. So, so what are you going to do with 926?
Well, we guaranteed our partners on Money Talks that, you know, we wouldn't promote the brother this year, and just kind of see what he does next year and make sure our partners are taken care of on Money Talks. And you know, next breeding season comes along next summer, we'll see what they both do.
If somebody wants more information on coming out here and seeing what you got at Prime Acres, give them a phone number.
My cell phone's 970-260-8656, or you can email me at brad@primeacres.net.
I'm telling you, that's a heck of a pen of yearlings right there.
Thank you.
And we get back from the break, we're going to show you the does that some of these yearlings came out of. We'll show you some 2-year-olds, and then later on the show, we're going to introduce you to Money Talks. So the thing that is obvious to me when I come out here is that your deer are gentle. I mean, whether it's the bucks or, I mean, the does like this. I mean, these does are, I mean, they're gentle because you spend a lot of time with them. But I'm just wondering, tell me about the bottle feeding process. I mean, who does it, and and why do you do it, I guess?
Well, yeah, we bottle raise all of our doe fawns every year, and primarily just to keep them gentle, and you know, if one of them gets sick, you know, we're able to get our hands on them, you know, work on them. Of course, we like our does calm in the pens. They're easier to work. Actually, they're healthier, you know, less stress. This year we've had an intern, and my wife helps a lot with the bottle feeding as well. And then Sadie, my ranch manager, you know, she's a big part of that as well. So.
But in looking at you said all your fawns. I know you not. I mean, it's most of the fawns. I mean, it used to be all your doe fawns you used to bottle raise, and that's the reason why, like, we're surrounded by them. But you've got fawns in the pens with these does now, and these are mama raised. But you know, the deal about it is that they're gentle.
Yes, we leave all our buck fawns on the mamas. And then this year we have left a select few of doe fawns on the mamas, just the mamas that are, you know, calm like this one that you can, and their fawns will come up 4 or 5 foot from us, you know, when we're treating or whatever, and that's really what we're after, is just a good calm deer with our females for sure. So
I want to stress to y'all that if you're going to buy deer from people, I would encourage you to buy deer that are calm. Okay, and the reason why it's calm deer are just they're better deer to have in your pens, number one, but you can take care of them better. I mean, you can look at them and you can see if somebody is not feeling well, and you can take care of them. You get your hands on them. They're just calm deer are the result of spending a lot of time with your animals, and whether it's time treating them like this or coming in and petting on them, but acclimating the deer to people is really important. So when you come out here to Prime Acres, you're going to see the deer are gentle. I mean, we just left the tappets pen with those bucks in there, and you can see how gentle they are. And the reason why is because they spend lots of time not just with the does, but with the bucks as well. All right, so 2-year-olds, huh?
Yep.
Okay, these guys in here, were they all born on your farm?
Yeah, they were.
Okay, so you did all the breeding. I mean, were any of these does that you are out of does that you bought elsewhere?
Well, they was all AI'd here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made all these deer.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I've been looking at your deer, and the one that is the gnarliest one out of all of them, as I call it, the most non-typical, is 802.
Well, his sire's Vegas on a Southern Express doe, and not really bred to be probably as non-typical as what he is, but just the way he turned out, you know.
Let's see who else we got in here. So who's that guy right there?
That's 827. That's named him Premium Collector.
Okay. Boy, he's a heck of a nice deer.
Thank you.
And so what's going on with him?
I've sold him. He's getting ready to leave here in a few weeks to cover at another place.
When people deer breeders wind up going to other deer breeders' farms and taking a look at what they have, and what'll happen is you clearly made a decision that you weren't going to use him to breed, but he probably had the right pedigree and certainly the right look for whoever you sold him to.
Correct. Yeah, I was on the fence. I mean, with that look, you know, I had planned on keeping him to breed, but And I'm retaining some of the semen rights. You know, I'll probably use him a little to AI, and but he was needing a breeder at his ranch, so you know we're just going to move forward and you know, make a partnership in the meantime.
Okay, we always talk about partnerships. So what about these other deer, these other 2-year-olds? What are you going to do with them? How long are you going to keep them before you get rid of them?
We typically move most of our 2-year-olds, you know, as stalkers or breeders, you know, to other breeding facilities. There's probably a couple of these that I'll hold over that I think have some, you know, potential next year. Pedigree's just, you know, really good, and the one here, you know, he damaged a little bit early on, and I just think they probably have some potential next year, you know, possibly making a breeder buck. So, I mean, I spend, you know, several minutes, if not hours, every day on Nadar. You know, I'm a pedigree junkie, but on the other hand, I mean, you need to buy deer from the right people as well, you know. And there's a lot of good people in this industry. There
really are, and I say the whitetail deer is a magical animal because they brought us together. We wouldn't know each other without the deer. They brought so many people together. They enrich people's lives, and what we're going to do, after the break here, we're going to show you a deer that's enriching a lot of people's lives. I mean, literally, not just in the joy, but financially. This deer is he could possibly be the best yearling that I've ever laid my eyes on.
All right, hey guys, this is Ron with Ellie Fence. Back here, we're getting ready to stretch some net wire so we can get it put up before call it quits for the evening. So right here, we've laid out the net wire on the ground, attach it to our stretcher bar, and then we stood up some of our fence down the line so that when we pull it, it's already kind of standing upright. So now when we hook it up to our tractor and start pulling back, we start going until we get some good resistance on this net wire. Don't want to be too tight as we're working in some deer pins. You don't want a deer or a good buck running into it, breaking the neck or getting his antlers stuck in the fence. So we keep a little bit of play in it, not much, just a little bit. And then after we get some good tension on it, we're gonna go ahead and start doing what we did over here on the gates, and we're gonna cut one strand at a time, and we're gonna cut off the stays and then tie the wire back around the pipe. And then we'll be done with this portion of the fence. All we got left to do are some gates. So we're gonna turn this one big deer pin into 2 little deer pins, and good to go. Thanks, guys.
The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by Record Rack Deer and Elk Feeds. I don't know how it feels to win the lottery because I've never won the lottery, but you just won the lottery. Folks, that deer right there, we're gonna show him to you, and you're gonna think, there's nothing big and fancy about that deer, but I want you to look at him, okay? Well, his antlers are cut off, and there's a reason why they're cut off. That deer right there is named Money Talks. And tell everybody about Money Talks. This deer is a yearling now. I want you to hear this. He's a yearling, and we're gonna show you a video of what he looked like before he was cut off. So tell them about him.
Well, we was just, I was fortunate enough to partner on his mother a few years ago, and able to, I mean, he come into our farm as an embryo, and just feel blessed that, you know, that we have him here, and he grew out like he did, and just can't be any happier with him.
I mean, in looking at the video of Money Talks, I mean, he's got, I mean, this is a yearling buck. Keep in mind, he's a yearling. And I mean, of course, he's in the velvet, and you cut him off probably, what, 2 weeks ago or whatever, middle of August, and he was close to being done, but the deer's got everything. I mean, talk about his paper. Tell everybody who his pedigree is.
Yeah, his pedigree's Unforgiven, Freeze Frame, Express, Ranger, Green 8, which is hardcore sister.
That is unbelievable. That is as good a pedigree as you can get, and that is as big of a yearling as the industry, I think, has seen ever. I mean, he is phenomenal. How wide was he?
He was 32 inside.
32 inside, and I mean, he's in, most of his points are up tines. I mean, they're up tines in.
He does have some extras, you know, but real framey. And
so what did he score?
We rough scored him a little over 350.
As a yearling.
Before we stripped him.
So think about that. So as you look at him in here, I mean, these are all yearlings in here, okay, the same age as him, okay? But something happened perfectly. It was a perfect storm, so to speak, good storm, in order to be able to grow a deer like Money Talks.
We've always bred for the females, you know, tried to keep the paper looking good, and And but then again, I didn't really ever expect to have a yearling buck that looks like that. So.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You were humble, you're modest, and you're my friend, and I appreciate it. You're a friend of the deer industry. And folks, if y'all want more information about coming out here to Prime Acres, give them a telephone number.
My cell phone's 970-260-8656, or you can email me at brad@primeacres.net.
And when you come out here, just north of Beaumont, Texas by Woodville, if you know where Sam Rayburn Reservoir is, kind of over, it's in East Texas. Come on out here, be prepared to see some great big deer, of course, but to meet some really nice people that love their animals as much as I love mine. And I'm proud of you. So,
thank you.
Folks, if you have any questions or comments, you know what to do. Get a hold of Brad. If you're watching our show online, you can go ahead and post questions and comments below. If you're not watching online, head on over to our YouTube channel and make sure and subscribe while you're there. My name is Keith Warren, and thanks for watching.